Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video, and in today's video we're going to be checking out Codex Imperial Knights. This landed a little bit late at Sprues and Brews HQ, hence this video going up a little bit later than its pre-order and release, but we wanted to bring you a quick video run through of the book so you can see if it's worth your hard-earned pennies. I might not quite go into as much detail as I would do on one of these videos, purely because it has been out, there's been information online now for a little while, but seeing as we've got a copy, we wanted to bring you a video of some kind. So there won't be a written review for this one, it'll just be this video, but hopefully you can gain enough information from this to make a judgment on it. So, this obviously came out at the same time as the Chaos book. Now, before I even open the page of this, I've kind of been sort of cheated and told that if you want a knight army that's very much like buff up a knight to the nines and then charge them and do loads of damage, then the Chaos Knights are probably for you. I've been told the Imperial Knights are far more of a synergy army. So yeah, we'll check out this book now and see if that's correct. The first thing that jumps out is this book seems significantly thicker than the last one. I can't remember where I've put my previous copy of the Imperial Knight Codex. I'll be honest, whilst I had it, I never really got past one night, so I never actually ran the book properly. I only ever used it for one data sheet when I was pairing my Knight Errant up with my AdMech. But I do actually intend, I've got a Knight Dominus to build, so that'll be my second Knight, and I've got my eye on some armigers, so hopefully I'll be running 2k of Knights soon, so I'll be able to use this book to its full potential. Anyway, enough about that, let's check out some of this book. So, as always, we start off with an introduction, in case you're brand new to the army, and of course it kicks into some stunning artwork and lore. So, I've had a read of this. It's very good. There's quite a bit of new stuff in here as well that I've not previously read or seen anything similar of, which is always really good. And some of it is quite current as well. They do like to, at the moment for these codexes, keep some of the more, current events as they were going on in 9th edition to the supplements, such as the Warzone books. But there is actually some new stuff in here. Because of course House Raven, they've had a pretty hard time of it recently, and that's reflected in this book as well, in some of the text. So I'm very quickly going through these pages, because I think, if you're interested in the lore, you'll want to pick this book up fresh and read through it. It is very good at showing you all the heraldry and stuff, so when you're applying transfers and painting freehand, you know what kind of things you can add to it that would be sort of lore legal, as it were. It takes you through all the main houses, both for Mechanicus and Imperials, because that divide is still here. You've got different houses loyal to the Mechanicus, and the other half are more loyal to kind of just the Imperials in general. House Raven, of course, as I mentioned, that actually comes quite up to date with what's going on currently in the lore. Again, it gives you an idea of all their paint schemes, the iconography. Really good. I believe that's Duncan Rhodes' Knight Army. See, a very cool art scheme. There's loads of really nice Knight schemes. Plus Knights as well. They're so cool to just do your own. Always like that scheme as well. Freeblades, so these are kind of like your guns for hire. So you tend to see a lot of these as allies with other Imperium armies. And then Canis Rex returns as well. He's the book's one and only named independent character. We then have some stunning pages of the models themselves, all the different chassis, the armigers, the Knight Dominuses, different colour schemes, Canis Rex himself. And then we get to the bit that you're all interested in, the rules. So this breaks down where you'll find specific rules. Already you can see There's a few different things here, like noble households, exalted court. What's that? Oh, there's an army renown in here. So already pretty exciting for what we're about to see. I don't think the combat patrol's out yet, but that's a box of 3 armigers. You know, not bad. I think at the moment you can only buy a box of 2. 3's a nice number of those. I do need to get some of them myself, so maybe that combat patrol will be for me. So, let's talk detachment abilities. So, a lot of the content in this book relies on you having a battle-forged army of Imperial Knights. Should you take an Imperial Knight battle-forged army, it unlocks lots of special rules. There's quite a lot actually to take in, and we'll go through those as we go through the book. What this page also explains is how you can take a Freeblade in any Imperium army without breaking your detachment rules. So, as it stands before this book came out, if you wanted to take a knight with a Death Watch army, for example, you would lose out on their special combat doctrines. If you took one with a Sisters army, they would lose miracle dice. With this Wandering Hero ability here, you can take a Freeblade as a special super heavy auxiliary detachment and not lose all your doctrine sort of abilities, because it becomes an agent of the Imperium, which is quite a seen keyword now to differentiate those units that aren't going to break your special rules of your battle-forged armies. It also explains how they work in Crusade as well. So yeah, if you do decide to do that and have just one knight going along with your Imperium armies, a lot of these like special rules, a lot of these vows and stuff, they're not going to mean anything to you because you won't get those. You do get the ability to choose a Warlord trait if you spend a stratagem, so you'd be able to get like a relic and a Warlord trait. However, yeah, you won't get all these other cool abilities, such as the Alliance Oath. So, should you side with Questor Mechanicus, you're adding 1 to your wounds characteristic, and at the start of your command phase, a model of this oath regains 1 last wound. Alternatively, you might go for Questor Imperialis, add 1 to advance and charge rolls. You can ignore all or any modifiers to your advance and charge rolls, and each time you make a pile in, you can move an extra inch. So depending on what house you go for, if you create your own, you're going to fall into one of those 2 categories. When you create your battle-forged army, you can choose a household or you can make your own. If you choose a household, there's several to choose from, both from Mechanicus and Imperialis. For each one, you've got a special household tradition, you've got a unique stratagem, a unique warlord trait, and a unique relic. So we've got Terran here, which is a very popular one, really nice blue colour scheme. They've got a pretty cool relic called Champion of the Household. Simply put, you can reroll advance and charge rolls made by a warlord. Make sure he gets stuck into combat. Thunder of Voltris is the relic that you can take. It replaces a battle cannon, stays at 72-inch range, but it's heavy d6 plus 6, strength 9, AP minus 2, and flat 3 damage with blast. So very tasty. Glory and Honour's nothing to be sniffed at either. For 1 singular CP, you gain an extra attack, and you can reroll hit rolls of 1 as well, which is really good. House Griffith there, House Cadmus, again with their own unique traits. What's this? Dragon Slayer. Use the stratagem in shooting phase when a House Griffith model from your army is selected to shoot, or in the fight phase. Until the end of the phase, each time that model makes an attack, if the target of that attack contains any vehicle or monster models, add 1 to the wound roll. Woohoo. I mean, you've got quite high strength weapons anyway, but if you're fighting vehicles and monsters, and they could have quite high toughness, so yeah, that's a very tasty 2 CP, but that could be worth it. Definitely the charge everything household. Again, I'm not going to go through all the warlord traits and relics, as you can see them there, but there's some really cool choices. House Morton, each time a model with this tradition makes a melee attack, you can reroll hit roll of 1. That's really good, really powerful. Honour's Bite's a special Reaper Chainsaw with 2 attack types, strike and sweep. That's very good. So yeah, very cool. Then we move on to the Mechanicus ones. Again, House Raven is talking about obviously what's going on in the war zone at the moment. There's still a very good household though. So for example, their Warlord trait, Master of the Trial. Each time an attack is allocated to this Warlord, if that attack has an armor penetration characteristic of -1 or 2, the armor penetration characteristic of the attack is reduced by 1. So it makes your Warlord stick around for a little bit longer, which is always great. Your House Tyrannus, which is what I used to run, they still have the stratagem that when a knight dies, you can potentially bring it back with some wounds. So let's just read this. So when your army is destroyed but does not explode, you place a marker on the battlefield in the centre where the destroyed model's base was. You can choose to roll 1d6 at the end of the phase instead of using any rules other than explodes, which must be rolled for first, that are triggered when that model is destroyed. If you do so, on a 4+, you set the model back up on the battlefield as close as possible to the marker and within 6 inches of that marker, and not within engagement range, with just 3 wounds remaining. If it's not possible to do so, it's destroyed. So obviously make sure you can do that before you roll the d6 and use the stratagem. So that's always cool, Knight coming back to life. So it's cool that that's returned. House Krast, House Vulca are returning as well. And then you've got your martial traditions. This is basically build your own household. So if your chosen noble household does not have an associated household tradition, you must select a martial tradition from the list here. In addition, Freeblade units from your army must also have a martial tradition from the list here. So, yeah, they're just here, the Freeblade ones. So they get their own lists of martial traditions. We've got a few pages of stratagems. So some classics returning here, as well as some really cool brand new ones. So Full Tilt is back for 1 CP. You do not make an advance roll. Instead, until the end of that phase, add 6 inches to the move characteristic. Or if it's an Arminger, you add 9 instead. So absolutely running up the field. Trophy Claim for 1 CP in the fight phase. When your Imperial Knight destroys an enemy Titanic unit with a melee attack, until the end of the battle, add 1 to the model's attacks characteristic. If every unit from your army has the Imperial Knight's keyword, excluding agents and underlined, you gain 1 honor point. Come to that later. Also, until the end of the battle, you're counting as virtuous for your chivalry abilities, which is very, very cool. Again, we'll come to that shortly. Some of them are unique for Mechanicus, some of them are unique for Questa Imperialis. Rotate Iron Shields is back to get up to a 4+ invulnerable save. 1 or 2 CP depending on what you're using it on. Hurled Wreckage. This used to be a rule that was on the Thunderstrike Gauntlet, where basically you picked up a tank or a vehicle that you destroyed and suffered D3 mortal wounds to a unit that you've, an area that you've thrown it at. It's now a stratagem that can be used on any Imperial Knights. So once you've killed a vehicle or monster, you can then roll 1d6, subtracting 1 from the result of the enemy unit. As a character with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less. On a 3 to a 5, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it just suffers a flat 3 mortal wounds. I really like that. I really like the fact that you can pick up the tank you just destroyed and then just lob it and deal some mortal wounds to whatever it lands on. You've of course got your normal pick an extra Warlord trait, and pick an extra relic as well, as is standard. But some really good and tasty stratagems in here, especially if you're running an army of them. But they're also quite handy for if you want to run just one knight on its own. Before we move on to the next segment, there is one other stratagem I just wanted to point out. Well, there's lots of cool stratagems, but Point Blank Barrage, it's quite a simple one for 1 CP, allows you to fire blast weapons in combat, so it helps you deal with those hordes as well, which is really cool, like your battle cannons and things. But yeah, lots of really cool stratagems in here. The Exalted Court works a lot like your chapter master upgrades that we're seeing in all these codexes. So, like chapter masters, master librarians, and so on. So the way these work is they all have a power rating, they all have a points value. You've got the names of them all here, and then each one has a different ability depending on what you've put the Exalted Court onto, the upgrade onto. So for example, Master of Justice, so you can only use it on an Imperialis character. When you select upgrades, that one Imperialis martial tradition that no model in your army has, this model gains that martial tradition. So that's really cool. Noble Exemplar ability, once per battle, when using Imperial Knights strategic ploy stratagem, if the model uses that strategic ploy and is under the effects of this model's bondsman ability, then that stratagem cost changed to 0. And Crusade duty, if this model is in your Crusade force, at the end of the battle, if you won, roll 1d6 and 4, plus you gain additional requisition, which is very, very cool. So bondsman abilities we're going to come up to in a few moments, so we won't discuss that right now. Gatekeeper is another cool one. So again, for the Imperialis Knights, while the model is wholly within your deployment zone, each time an attack is made, an unmodified wound roll of a 1 to a 3 fails, irrespective of any abilities. So basically it's like a transhuman on a knight, which is really, really cool. Its ability is, while an Armiger class model is under the effects of the bondsman ability, while the Armiger class model is within range of an objective marker, you add 1 to the model's toughness. So making sure you keep hold of those objectives with your Armiger. And again, if this unit is part of your Crusade force and you're the defender, then you start with an extra command point, which is really cool. So some nice flavoursome upgrades here. And of course, you've got some which are unique to the Mechanicus. Forge Master, for example, only available from Mechanicus character. While this model is wholly within the deployment zone, each time a wound is allocated to it, you reduce the damage by 1. This is not cumulative with any other rules that reduce the damage characteristic of an attack, because I think there's a relic actually that does the same. Its other unique ability, while an Armiger class is under the effects of this model's bondsman ability, each time the Armiger model makes an attack against a unit that's wholly within your deployment zone, you add 1 to the attack's hit roll and add 1 to the attack's wound roll. That's very good. Yeah, that's really cool. And again, you get a Crusade bonus if it's part of a Crusade force. Each time you use the relic or the repair and recuperate requisition, it costs 1 fewer requisition points to use. So some more gorgeous artwork. And then for the first time, or at least from the books I've gone through anyway, we've actually got an Army of Renown within a Codex. So as far as I'm aware, these Army of Renowns have only been available within the Warzone books. So this is called the Freeblade Lance. And as it sounds, it's if you take a detachment of pure Freeblades, you gain some really cool stuff. So you gain the Indomitable Heroes. At the start of each of your command phases, a model of this martial tradition regains 1 lost wound. Each time an advance or charge roll is made for a model with this martial tradition, you can ignore any and all modifiers to the advance and charge roll. So it's a mix, basically, of Mechanicus and the Imperialis martial traditions. You also get Legendary Knight. Freeblade Lance character can be upgraded to have 1 of the Exalted Court upgrades, even though they're a Freeblade, because Freeblades don't normally get it. If a Freeblade Lance model is upgraded, replace all instances of the Noble Household with the Freeblade Lance keyword. You get an exclusive Warlord trait, Echoes from the Past, which is cool. So this Warlord gains... Much as a bit of a typing error here, this Warlord gains and the glorified history martial tradition if it has the Imperialis keyword, or the fealty to the cog martial tradition. So I think it's supposed to just read it gains the glorified history martial. I don't know where the and there has come from. This Warlord will only gain the martial tradition of the selected house, however, it will not gain access. So basically it gives you a martial tradition from one of the houses without all the other extras that you can take, like the exclusive stratagem, relic, etc. You do get to choose the Bringer of Justice, which is an exclusive relic for this Army of Renown. It's for a Freeblade It's for a Freeblade Lance model, of course, with a Reaper Chainsword. It replaces that Reaper Chainsword with a +8 strength, -4 AP, flat damage 6 strike attack melee weapon, and it also has a sweep ability as well, which is +2 strength, -3 AP, flat 2 damage, and each hit is 3 hits instead of 1 with the sweep attack. It then also comes with four exclusive stratagems. Favoured Knight, use this stratagem for the battle when you're mustering your army. Select one Lance character from your army that has an heirloom relic. That model can have a second heirloom relic. So you can stack relics on him to really make him stand out as this awesome Freeblade character. Speaking of relics, we've got a few pages here. Now, one thing I have noticed is it does feel like there's a lot more for the Imperialists than the Mechanicus, but we've also returning ones here, as well as some brand new ones. So Sanctuary returns, gives your model a floor plus invulnerable save against melee attacks. Ravages, an exclusive Reaper Chainsword. Give one of your Questorius Knights or Armigers a 2+ save with the Army of the Sainted Ion. Endless Fury is still here. Model of an Avenger Gatling Cannon. That's now Assault D6 +12, Strength 6, AP -3, flat 2 damage each. Amazing. That's so cool. What else have we got? Mentor Seal. Knight. Now the Precipitator, which is the Canis Rex style knight. They're now like a priest. Again, we'll see something in a moment which will explain that. But basically, this gives it extra teaching. This will make sense when we get to that page. So yeah, some very cool relics. But then move on to the Warlord traits. So got a few traces here. Got 6 traces. Cunning Commander. At the start of your command phase, if this Warlord is on the battlefield, roll D6 on a 5+, you gain a command point. Nice and straightforward. Revered Knight. At the start of the fight phase, if your Warlord is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fight first that phase. And also, for the same Warlord trait, if every unit from your army has the Imperial Knights keyword, excluding units with the Agents of the Imperium or unaligned keywords, and this Warlord is part of your army, then at the start of the battle, you start the battle with 1 additional honor point. But if your Warlord is destroyed, you lose an honor point. So I just mentioned about the Knight Precipitator. I'm so rubbish sometimes at pronouncing some of these Warhammer names. The Canis Rex Knight gains a keyword called Mentor, which we'll see when we get to the data sheet. But it basically makes them a bit like a priest. So they'll get access to these knightly teachings, which they can inspire. So, for example, the virtue of courage. If this teaching is inspiring, whilst an Armiger model is within 6 inches of the mentor, each time that model makes an attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores an additional hit. The Folly of Mercy. If this teaching is inspiring, select one household Armiger model within 12 inches of mentor. That model can perform an action and make a normal move and shoot without that action failing. There's so many buffs from your big knights that are affecting your Armigers. There's quite a lot to remember. And I think back at the beginning of the video when I mentioned about the Imperial Knight book having a lot of synergies, definitely seeing that with all these different kind of abilities that affect the Armigers, whether it be Warlord traits, relics, all this cool stuff, and now these knightly teachings. So I really like that. Chapter approved rules. We've got some exclusive secondary objectives. I've had a look at these. Nothing really jumps out. There are some good choices though. Yield no ground. If you select this, it's a progressive objective. You score 2 victory points if you control half or more of the total number of objective markers on the battlefield, and 1 or more Imperial Knights models from your army are within range of each of these objective markers. You score 3 victory points if no enemy models, excluding aircraft, are wholly within the deployment zone, and you score another victory point so long as no Imperial Knight units from your army ended that turn closer to the battlefield edge than they started, and also haven't fallen back. So, yeah, there's some really cool ones. Again, nothing outstanding, but some pretty good choices. This was quite cool as well. Honour of the House. So, if you select objective, at the end of each battle round, if you have 6 honour points, or if you have more honour points than you did at the start of the battle round, you gain 2 victory points. At the end of the battle, if your army is virtuous, you gain 3 additional victory points. If your army is honoured, you gain 2. If your army is dishonoured, reduce the number of victory points you've earned from the secondary objective by 3. So, could be quite punishing, but we will come across all these honour and dishonour shortly. We have some Crusade rules. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it might be something we cover on the website in the future. But in essence, you can take your Imperial Knight army and send them on a Crusade to try and gain honour and things like that. And it also gives you rules for if you already have a Crusade going on. Say, for example, I'm doing a Crusade with my upcoming sister's army. I can put a knight in there and he can have his own little Crusade going on. Whilst I'm also doing the sisters, which I thought was really cool, because otherwise he's just kind of missing out on the Crusade experience. But it's all about sort of upping his rank and gaining more honour, which unlocks more abilities and stuff. In short, you can gain that honour by completing different quests. And then as you do so, you gain qualities. You've got different charts that you can roll on. Some are for combat, some for shooting, some are more sort of support abilities. But you can also get burdens as well, which may, for example, there, driven to slaughter, this weapon, the model's weapon skill is reduced by 1. You know, it can punish you a little. So, but you know, if you play it properly, you might end up with a burden. So, agendas are like your objectives for Crusade. So you've got some exclusive Imperial Knight ones there. Requisitions to spend your requisition points on. This can be to give Exalted Court upgrades. It's the only way you can get them in Crusade. To add more knights to your force, to upgrade your knights. To send them on new quests. You've got exclusive Crusade relics. Exclusive battle traits for your knights and also for your Freeblades. And battle scales as well if it all goes horribly wrong. And there's an example of a Crusade army at war. So now we move on to the really exciting part. This is the data sheets. Now, I'd hoped to have the old book open so I can kind of compare stat lines and abilities, but I cannot find it anywhere. So I'm going to try and go from memory, but I'm sure you guys will be able to check out these data sheets at your, whenever you've got time to sort of pause and zoom in and stuff and check out what differences there are for you. But before we get into the data sheets, hidden in this section is these chivalry points, which I've been mentioning quite a bit during this video because there's different things that use it. But this is a really cool mechanic and I'm so glad they've included this. So, when you come to write your army list, so whether it be for a friendly game or a tournament or anything like that, you're going to pick 2 of these. So basically making a pledge. So you got to make 2 of them. So you might pick protect those in need. So you're pledging for your Imperial Knights models to perform a heroic intervention, and for your Imperial Knight models from your army to make a charge move against an enemy unit that started the charge phase within engagement range of another friendly unit. So if you complete those pledges, then you gain honour points, which take you up this chart here. So you always start with 1 on honours, and you can go up to virtuous. You can also lose points and go down to dishonoured if you're not careful. And to lose points, you're looking at the trophy. So for example, for this one, if your Imperial Knight model for your army was eligible to declare a heroic intervention during your opponent's charge during your opponent's charge phase, but failed to do so, you would lose a point. So you'd lose a point on here. In your charge phase, if one or more Imperial Knight models from your army were eligible to declare a charge against an enemy unit that started the phase with an engagement range with another unit from your army, but none of them made a charge move against such an enemy unit during that phase. So, say you've got an armager unit stuck in combat and you have the option for another one of your Imperial Knights to charge in. If you then choose not to, you're going to be losing a point on your army on a chart. So long as you're honoured, which is kind of the middle bracket, then you get the Selfless Heroes ability. This model is eligible to perform a heroic intervention as if it was a character. If this model is a character, then it's eligible to perform a heroic intervention if it's within 6 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically of any enemy units instead of 3 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically. And each time this model makes a heroic intervention, it can move up to 6 inches. So that helps you obviously do your pledges, helps get you into combat. If you manage to score 5 or 6 honor points and go up to the next rank, you become virtuous. You then also get the virtuous ability. So for this one, if this model has a bondsman ability, it can use it 1 additional time in each of your command phases. So you got 4 of these. You're going to pick 2 of those, and you're going to want to try and build up on this. I wish you got this for your knight that you might add to your friendly unit as an ally, a friendly army as an ally. Sadly, you don't get that. It's only if you've got a battle-forged army. We then have the data sheets themselves, with the Armiger Helverin with the autocannons and the Warglaive, which is more of kind of a mix of close combat and the melter weapon. So personally, I can't see any massive changes there. The units are still set up together, but they can operate individually. So no massive change there. Your medium-sized knights, or as I like to call them, the classic knights, such as the Knight Errant, they all gain different bondsman abilities. So for the Knight Errant, you get Errant's Duty. In your command phase, you can select 1 friendly Armiger class model within 12 inches. Until the start of your next command phase, that Armiger model is eligible to declare a charge at a turn in which it advanced. And you can add 1 to the advance and charge rolls, which is ace. Going to get your Armiger charging headfirst into combat. The Knight Warden, on the other hand, gets Warden's Duty. In your command phase, you can select 1 friendly Armiger class model within 12 inches. Until the start of your next command phase, the Armiger class model counts as 10 models for the purpose of determining which player controls objective markers. So again, very strong for multiple objective games that you want your Armigers capping with your Knights of Support. The Crusader gains their own exclusive bondsman ability. In command phase, you can select 1 friendly Armiger class unit within 12 inches of this model. Until the start of your next command phase, improve the model's ability skill by 1 on the Armiger that you selected. That's pretty good, because I think they did they get on 2s or 3s? 3s or 4s? Let's have a quick look. Yes, they're normally hitting on 3s, so we're hitting on 2s with that, which is very good for shooting anyway. We've also got a Knight Gallant. In the command phase, you can select 1 friendly Armiger within 12 inches. Until the start of your next command phase, improve your Armiger's weapon skill by 1. So he's going to be hitting, I mean, he's already hitting on a 2 at base stat. But if anything's got, like, you know, dodging and weaving, you can negate that a little bit with that +1 to its weapon skill. You also have your Knight Paladin, and then you move. Oh, actually, we might as well do the bondsman ability for that one as well. In your command phase, you can select 1 friendly Armiger class model within 12 inches until the start of your next command phase. Each time the Armiger model makes an attack, you can re-roll a hit and wound roll of a 1. So still a solid choice. We then move on to the Massive Knight, so the Castellan's back, which is cool. And you've also got the Valiant as well, which is the one with the Thunder Coil Harpoon and also the Configuration Cannon, which is ace. You then have that Knight Precipitator. Again, apologies if I've butchered its pronunciation. It explains the mentor keyword here. So in those free teachings, any command phase, if the one's on the battlefield, it can recount up to 2 of them. Roll a d6 on a 3+, then it's inspiring. So you'd have to roll the dice to make sure it goes off. And then, of course, to finish off, you've got Canis Rex, who is the named Precipitator we'll run with for now. He's still very cool. He still can come out on foot once his knight breaks, gets destroyed. So yeah, it's cool. And he also knows free knightly teachings as well. So yeah, he's very cool. Getting towards the end of the book, you've got your weapon profiles that easy reference, your points values. We then also have the glossary of sort of the key terms as well. And I think that brings us to the end, apart from the reference there. So that was Codex Imperial Knights. I did go through that a little bit quicker than I would normally do, partly because of my voice, partly also because this book has been available online for a little bit of time. But I wanted to take you through it. I really like it. I think it's much better having a Battleforged Imperial Knight army than it used to be. There's loads of cool abilities, bonuses and points that you have to keep track of during your games, which I think makes absolutely perfect sense for an army like the Imperial Knights, because at most you might be running 3 to 5 knights or something like that. So it's nice to have things going on, such as gaining honours, because you know it's not going to take long to move 3 models. It gives you something else to do and think about. Some really strong stratagems, some pretty good warlord traits. So, you know, I think there are going to be some armies that are going to be very intimidated by these guys. I know 1 or 2 of mine are going to be a bit worried. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. So no written review for this one, yeah, we look forward to bringing you the next Codex release, of which we'll do a full written review and video for you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Do make sure you check out our Chaos Knight video. It will be linked at the end of this one. Again, another very cool codex. All depends on where your loyalty lies, of course. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Recommend picking it up if you've got any interest in knights, even if you've only got the one, because you'll unlock all these stratagems and stuff. So yeah, pick this up, digest it, and enjoy. Our thanks to Games Workshop for sending us this copy of the book to check out, even if it did get lost in the warp. And yeah, we'll speak to you all again very soon. Have a great time hobbying, guys. Bye.